Breaking news. India has played down the absence of Putin and Xi from the G20 summit. Despite Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping not attending the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend in New Delhi, India's Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar played down their absence on Wednesday. In an interview with the local news agency ANI, Jaishankar said, "I think at different points in G20 there have been some presidents or prime ministers who for whatever reason, have chosen not to come themselves, but that country's position is obviously reflected by whoever is the representative on that occasion." Indian officials had been mum about either leader's absence from the summit, which comes as tensions rise between Russia, China, and the West. "Nothing to do with India, in my opinion," the Indian minister continued. "I think whatever decision they make, they would know best." Putin's absence from the forthcoming summit was confirmed by the Kremlin 2 weeks ago. The Russian leader also skipped the summit in Bali the year before. Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister of Russia, will be present at the Summit of World Leaders, as he was a year ago. This will be Xi's first missed summit since he took office in 2013, though he skipped the 2020 and 2021 summits as well due to China's COVID-19 policies, which were confirmed on Monday. Beijing did not provide a reason for his absence but did announce that Chinese Premier Li Qiang would instead travel to New Delhi for the event. The bilateral relations between China and India are at one of the lowest points in decades, and Xi's absence from the summit does not help matters. After the worst confrontation between the two nuclear-armed nations in 45 years, which resulted in the deaths of at least 20 Indian and 4 Chinese soldiers in the Ladakh region of the Western Himalayas in June 2020, bilateral relations deteriorated drastically. The government of the United Kingdom plans to designate the Russian mercenary group Wagner as a terrorist organization, making it illegal to join or provide material support to the group. Its assets will be classified as terrorist property and seized under an order in draft that will be laid before Parliament. The Home Secretary called Wagner violent and destructive, a military tool of Vladimir Putin's Russia. A threat to global security, she called the organization's actions in Ukraine and Africa. Additionally, Suella Braverman stated, "Wagner's continuing destabilizing activities only continue to serve the Kremlin's political goals." This proscription order makes it crystal clear under UK law that they are terrorists, period. Wagner was instrumental in the Russian invasion of Ukraine and had also been active in Syria and several African countries, including Libya and Mali. Its members have been accused of murdering and torturing Ukrainian civilians. Is Wagner still a risk to international safety? In 2020, the United States claimed that Wagner-era soldiers had planted landmines in and around Tripoli, Libya. In addition, the United Kingdom claimed in July that the group was responsible for executions and torture in Mali and the Central African Republic. This year's failed mutiny by group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin against Russia's military leaders has cast the group's future into doubt. Russian Wagner mercenaries are known as what? After Prigozhin's passing, where does that leave Wagner? The group's founder, Prigozhin, and several other Wagner figures perished in a mysterious plane crash on August 23. They were laid to rest in St. Petersburg. In the United Kingdom, this organization will join others like Hamas and Boko Haram on a list of banned ones. If the Home Secretary has reason to believe that a group is involved in terrorism, they can seek to have that group declared a terrorist organization under the Terrorism Act of 2000. Before the Act, terrorist organizations in Northern Ireland could only be declared illegal. As a result of the proscription order, any involvement with the group, such as participation in its activities, expressing sympathy for its goals, or displaying its flag or logo, will be illegal. The maximum penalty for a proscription violation is 14 years in prison and/or a £5,000 fine. The government finally gave in after months of pressure from members of parliament. David Lammy, the shadow foreign secretary for the Labour Party, called for Wagner to be banned earlier this year, calling it responsible for the appalling atrocities in Ukraine and across the world. Mr. Lamy expressed his approval of the proposed order on Tuesday, writing, "This is long overdue, but it's welcome the government has finally acted. The government should now push for the establishment of a special tribunal to try Putin for his aggression." The group was subject to sanctions from the Foreign Office, which included the freezing of Prigozhin and other high-ranking commanders' assets. Conservative MP and committee chair Alicia Kearns said in July, "Sanctions are not enough. The UK needs to proscribe the Wagner Group for what it is, a terrorist organisation." In addition, her committee produced a report in which they called the government remarkably complacent, and criticized its dismal lack of understanding of Wagner's hold beyond Europe, in particular their grip on African states. After a failed mutiny in June against Russia's generals and the recent death of its top leadership in a plane crash, the Wagner Group is in dire straits, according to BBC security correspondent Frank Gardner. Legally prohibiting it, however, will make it more difficult for members to transfer funds among themselves, our correspondent notes. It will also give Ukrainians and others the right to seek compensation from Wagner and British courts, where the damages could be in the billions of pounds.